Whatever happened to JFK? What about this guy, Nelson Mandela? Railed as a terrorist by many Western governments when he was in prison. Once free, became president of South Africa, and in my opinion, a great statesman. I remember getting interested in politics during the days of Ronald Reagan. I wouldn't necessarily go along with his politics, but you know something? He did negotiate peace between the United States and the Soviet Union with the START treaties that reduced nuclear weapons on this planet. Charles de Gaulle, President of France, and these political titans, Margaret Thatcher and Tony Benn. Now, whether or not you agreed with their politics, all these people stood for something. They had conviction, they had quality, they were able to carry people with them. And who do we have right now? Well, instead of political heavyweights like JFK and Nelson Mandela and Tony Benn and Margaret Thatcher, we have midgets like Rishi Sunak, Lynn Truss, and Keir Starmer, the leader of the British opposition, the Labour Party. And it isn't just in the UK that we have midgets. We have the ever dumb and dumber Justin Trudeau in Canada, Macron in France. And these are the midgets that came before them. George W. Bush. I know that human being and fish can coexist peacefully. And where we haven't had midgets, we've had complete fakes and frauds. Like Barack Obama, that smooth-talking assassin, that Nobel Peace Prize winner, elected on a promise to end the wars. Yes, we can end them. And what did he do? Troop surge in Iraq and Afghanistan that ultimately failed. Bombed Libya, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, dropped more bombs on Pakistan in the first 100 days than George W. Bush had done in 8 years, even though the US was not at war with Pakistan. Fools, fakes, and frauds, culminating in the ultimate fakes and frauds, Kamala Harris, and that ultimate titan of politics, the ultimate political heavyweight of all time, Joe Biden.
Secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Meet NordPass. It creates strong passwords for you, keeps them safely locked in a single place, and automatically logs you into all of your favorite online accounts. And you can access it all on all of your devices, even when you're offline. That's NordPass.
Ready to hop in the 6-4 and cruise around the blocks? There's a storm coming to the underworld and the heat is on. Take over the blocks and call the shots. It's time to hustle or get hustled. What's it gonna be? Stay sharp. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. Don't let them catch you slipping. Only real gangsters thrive in the dope wars world.
So how come, in a democracy, you'd think that the brightest would rise to the top because they're the ones that capture the votes, that appeal to people, that present positive ideas, that have a vision, and that a democracy encourages meritocracy. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you why not. And it's got to do with the money. You have to follow the money. Now, before I continue, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, come over to bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey, because I post more material there and I'm not censored there as I am here on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. You come and follow my work on Odyssey. Now, the other thing I want to tell you is where I am right now. Just going to remove my green screen. I'm on holiday with my family in Cornwall, and I absolutely love and adore Cornwall. It's a little bit windy, but we got warm, dry weather all week long, so I'm going to enjoy swimming and catching up on my videos. Join my official Telegram announcements channel and follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT. Now, before I start following the money, I got to say something about Donald Trump and Jeremy Corbyn. I would much rather have had Jeremy Corbyn in power in the UK, and I'd much rather have had Donald Trump in power in the United States. If only because they're the only two Western leaders, apart from Viktor Orban in Hungary, who are advocating for peace between Ukraine and Russia. All three of them are saying we need to have a peaceful settlement. all three of them are being vilified by the mainstream media. Now, while I have a lot of respect for Trump and Corbyn, in a way, they're handicapped by the political milieu that they find themselves in. See, Tony Benn and Margaret Thatcher were up against each other. Each had to rise. Each had to develop their game and sharpen their game because of the quality of their opposition. Contrast that with the Conservative Leadership Party contest that's going on right now, because Rishi Sunak and Lynn Truss, all they need to do is fend off this guy. But when your opposition are philosophical, political, and moral midgets like Joe Biden, or Jeremy Corbyn up against Keir Starmer, and that moral midget Tony Blair in the Labour Party, and that moral midget Tony Blair in the Labour Party, there isn't the same call and the same challenge. Play the game of politics as successfully as you would otherwise. See, I would say Jeremy Corbyn and Donald Trump both lack political nonce. They were both outsiders, and they were unfamiliar with the political game as it's played in the halls of power. Now, what they did see that our current rulers didn't see is how this mess that we're in the West is being created. And here's probably the best example of that mess. The sanctions against Russia. When the war in Ukraine started, and the Western countries, the EU, NATO, United States, started talking about sanctioning Russia, and I looked at the sanctions, I was like, oh my God, Europe is punching itself in the face. Now, I wasn't the only one. A lot of independent commentators like Alexander Mercouris and Tom Luongo and many, many others were of the same opinion, that these sanctions are going to hurt the European people. And they're going to make no difference to Russia. And now we have a situation in August 2022 where Western governments are quietly, slowly clawing back the sanctions because the shock that they've caused, the shortages that they've caused have hurt their people so badly that you've got protests rising. People in Europe are facing a winter of cold and hunger. Now, some have argued, and in a way I agree with this, that it's all part of the Great Reset, that the WEF want to bring about cold and hunger in order to better control people. However, they've done it at such a scale and such a speed that has brought up far too much resistance. They have really, really messed up from their point of view. Now, I remember having a debate with some people who were like, yep, Russia really bad. Russia shouldn't have invaded Ukraine. We have to defend the democratic state that Ukraine is. Not that it's in any way a democratic state when you start digging in deeper and looking how it's structured and some of the laws that it's imposed. But they were all convinced that, hey, Russia is going to collapse. And I would say to them, look, sanctions haven't worked against Iran or Cuba or Venezuela, and Russia is more powerful than all of them combined. Russia is self-sufficient in food, self-sufficient in energy, and it produces loads and loads of commodities that the rest of the world wants. No, they would argue. Russia's going to crumble. Russia's going to crumble because without European money for its gas and oil, it's going to have no revenue. Wait a minute, I would say. Russia will just sell gas and oil to China and India, which is what it's been doing. And now we have this situation where Germany, the powerhouse economy of the European Union, isn't going to have enough fuel in order to power its factories and thus generate revenue, not just for Germany, but for the entire European Union project. Some of the political midgets in the European Union are clawing back against the sanctions, saying, no, we got to stop having the sanctions, while other midgets like Truss and Sunak are as gung-ho as ever because they've never learnt the lessons from history, never mind current economic and political reality. Don't poke the bear. Work for a peaceful settlement. Stop supporting racist, discriminatory, authoritarian, corrupt governments like Ukraine's. Well, they're not really going to do that because the West has an ignoble tradition of supporting corruption and authoritarian regimes. So how come our leaders have made such momentous mistakes and keep making such momentous mistakes? Like I said earlier, you got to follow the money. Corrupt money begets a corrupt society. Now, I got to say, this idea isn't my own. It's something that I've been thinking about for a while, and it's really been triggered out of my conversations with Tom Luongo. Now, if you're not following Tom Luongo, tomluongo.me, I suggest you do. A really, really smart, savvy, sound money guy. And I remember he said it in one of our many videos early on or something. He said something like this, and it got me thinking. Now, I'm a social worker. That's what I'm trained in. I'm not trained in finance or economics. I'm not formally, I'm self-taught. But if I can tell that the sanctions against Russia aren't going to work, I can tell that the sanctions are going to impoverish the European people and strengthen Russia, then surely these people can tell, but apparently not. And so I started thinking about what Tom said, that a corrupt money system begets corrupt society. Now, how the money system is corrupt isn't spoken about. Not in the mainstream media. You've got to dig it out in independent media, because if people really, really knew how the banking system works, how fiat currency works, they would be appalled, and we would want a sound money system. And the sound money system wouldn't give a certain cadre of society the advantages that a fiat money system does. Now, while not being trained in economics or finances formally, I do have a training and I think an understanding in how human beings operate. One, as a child protection social worker, because I see the worst instincts of humanity being played out. You know, if a parent can abuse their own children, then abusing people that aren't related to them, well, that's not too much of a stretch, and that's what we do as human beings. And the worst expression of that would be the genocides. And of course, if you're going to commit a genocide, you've got to do it real smart. Just like how the Nazis tricking Jewish people to line up to go into the gas chambers, saying you're just going to go in there to wash yourself of lice. Because if they said, hey, listen, you're going to go in there and we're going to gas you to death, they wouldn't have gone in, they would have rioted. So you have to bring about genocide slowly, cleverly, smartly. But to do that, you need corrupt leaders. You don't want people of high moral standing. You don't want leaders that are independent and have their own vision. You don't want politicians of conviction that have risen through the ranks based upon their merit and their ability to carry people with them because of the ideas and the visions that they espouse. You want crooks and knaves, fools and frauds, whose only access to power is through corruption and not through merit. Now, I've said it all begins with money, the corruption of money. Now, before I go into corrupt money, we've got to look at, well, what is sound money and what does money represent? Now, here I've got Bitcoin and gold as sound money. It could also have silver. And what I mean by sound money is they can't be inflated away. Inflation is the increase in money supply, but you can't increase the money supply of gold or Bitcoin or silver because you can't just print it up out of thin air. You have to deal with what you got. And what does that do? Well, it keeps labor honest. Now, what do I mean by labor here? I don't mean the Labour Party. And what I actually mean is the time and effort it takes to produce something. Keeps that honest. It doesn't steal time. Perhaps the biggest resource of all that we've got as human beings is time and energy. I can take my time and I can invest it wisely, or I can invest it unwisely. I could use my time to run a business, providing goods and services that people need. I could use my time to craft something essential, like, for example, shoes, or I could use my time to farm, or I could use my time to offer my services, sending out retweets of different projects or doing media studies. Some of those activities are actually going to contribute to wealth and are going to produce goods and services that people actually want and need. So let's say I'm a craftsman cobbler, and it takes me 10 hours to make some beautiful, beautiful shoes. Really great, wonderful, valuable shoes, right? Now, I've invested 10 hours of energy and effort and time and skill into making those shoes. So those 10 hours, I need to be able to tokenize them or have them represented by something that I can then exchange, for example, some meat. So I go to the local farmer and I say, hey, listen, I got these really, really great shoes and I need 10 hours of work and effort and raw materials that I worked with, plus my skills and knowledge and experience. Can you give me some of your finest steak? And the farmer says, I'm a regular subscriber to your services, and I go to Crypto Rich Odyssey via Bitly, that link, and you gave me a pair of shoes last week and I gave you meat. I don't need another pair of shoes, thank you very much. So now I'm stuck. I got these pair of shoes and a hungry tummy and I want some good quality meat. Now, this is where money comes in, because all that is the tokenization of the time and effort and skill that went into producing those shoes. So let's say those 10 hours of work into crafting those shoes have earned me 10 work time tokens, because it is just tokenized energy and effort and time. That's what money is. I can then take those cobblers and offer them to somebody else. I go to the local bookkeeper and I say, hey, would you like these shoes? I'll sell them to you for 10 work time tokens. So the bookkeeper gives me 10 work time tokens. I've now got those. He's got the shoes. I can then go to the farmer and say, listen, here's 10 work time tokens. How much meat will you give me? Let's say he gives me 10 kilos of steak and I'm really, really happy and content for several days. with 10 kilos of steak. And then what the farmer can do with those 10 work time tokens is go to the local supply store to buy some more feed for his cattle. And the local supply store gives him some feed for the cattle, takes the 10 work time tokens, and the guy that runs the supply store isn't really any good at accounts, so goes to the bookkeeper and says, hey, listen, can you keep my accounts for me? Here's 10 work time tokens. So that way you have a circulating economy, and everybody's using these 10 work time tokens. And that's a sound money system. But something happens under a fiat currency system, which is those that control the flow of fiat, and by fiat I mean government decreed work time tokens, dollars, pounds, euros, yen. They have exchange value because the government says that they have exchange value, and because the government tells banks to be able to redeem them for something, although you can't redeem them for anything anymore because none of them are backed by gold or silver or anything tangible. But there's a general agreement in the marketplace that they have value. So let's see how that works in a fiat currency system. So I've produced these shoes. It takes me 10 fiat work time tokens. I go and offer them to the farmer, but the farmer says, I'm sorry, you're going to have to give me 11 fiat work time tokens, or I can give you less meat. Fine, I'll take less meat because I got to eat, right? So now my fiat work time tokens, worth 10, representing 10 hours of work, are only buying me 9 kilos of meat. So the farmer goes to the supplier for feed, wants to buy feed for the cattle, but the supply store owner says, listen, the price has gone up of the feed, so your 10 fiat work time tokens aren't going to buy you as much as they did last week. So I'm going to give you less feed. Now, why is the value of the 10 fiat work time tokens going down? Well, it's going down because the supply is being increased. And whenever you increase the supply of something, that it becomes more abundant and less valuable. You reduce the scarcity. And that's what gives Bitcoin, gold, and silver their value, is that they're scarce. You can't make more gold. You can't make more Bitcoin. You can't make more silver. You can use substitutes for gold and silver and Bitcoin. You can have other cryptocurrencies. You can use other metals. You could use copper. Copper has been used as a unit of exchange, as a work time token. But because it's way more abundant, it has less value. Now, what people don't understand, I think, is that increase in fiat supply is built into the fractional reserve banking system. And there's two ways that it does that. One of them increases supply gradually over time until, like a hockey stick, at the end it goes through the roof. And the other one increases the supply in rapid jumps until it gets to a point where it all goes through the hockey stick phase, because all fiat currency systems eventually collapse. And why they collapse is because they get overprinted, overproduced, and they become worthless. This is what's happened in Zimbabwe. This is Turkey with the Turkish lira, the Sri Lankan rupee. It's what's happened again and again and again, many, many times throughout history, and will keep happening as long as we're using a fiat monetary system to represent people's labor. See, what we have in the UK, in Europe, throughout the banking system, the global banking system, is fractional reserve banking. And here's how it works. This guy over here, right, has $1,000, puts them in the bank. The bank holds $100 in reserve and then loans out $900. So as well as the original $1,000 deposit, there's now a $900 loan. So that's created $1,900, and the bank has $100. So $900 has just appeared from nowhere. How did it do that? Well, the bank just created it out of nothing. And then this person takes the $900, puts them into the bank. The bank has a reserve of $90, able to loan out $810, and now we have $2,710 in the system, and the bank has $190. The 100 reserve there, the 90 reserve here, and they've just magicked another $810. This person takes the $810, puts it in the bank keeps 81 in its reserve and lends out $729, and there's now $3,439 in the system, and the bank only has $271. So every time a loan taken out, even when you make a payment on a credit card, the money that's being loaned out is being created out of nothing. Think about it, right? If you're the one doing the creating, it's a really great business model. I wish I had the capacity to be able to create Bitcoin or gold or silver at will. I mean, isn't that what the alchemists have wanted to do with gold, to be able to magic gold, because then you can magic work time hours? But what it does to labor is it devalues the labor and the energy, the work time that people put into creating something. So as a cobbler, in order to get the 10 kilos of steak that I could in the original example of a sound money system, where before I could do it with 10 hours, I now need to work 11 hours. Or my 10 hours of time and energy is going to buy me less. Somebody has stolen my time and effort. They have devalued it. And I have no say about my honest, hard graft being diminished in this way. The process that I described doesn't stop. It's just happening all the time, all the time, all the time in the background. Think of all the credit cards that are being used. Never mind the debts that have been taken out to buy mortgages and cars. Never mind the debts that have been taken out by large corporations, or how governments are lending money to each other and stuff. They're just magicking it up out of nowhere. And now my 10 hours of hard work, sweat, skill to produce a pair of finely crafted shoes, really, really comfortable, wonderful shoes that will last forever, will only buy me 1 kilo of meat. Now, I can't increase the number of hours there are in the day. I can't necessarily increase my energetic output, not without any sort of investment. So what I could do is I could take out a loan and install machinery, or take out a loan and train somebody to be as finely skilled a cobbler as me. But all that does is devalue my time and effort and energy further down the line, because if I take out a loan for $10,000, the bank keeps $1,000 and can lend out a whole lot more against that $1,000. So in a fiat currency system, those that produce the goods and services, they are being robbed of their time and their money as a natural part of the fiat process. Now, I said there were two ways that this happened. One is this very gradual, insidious all the time that's happening, that people don't know about. We're not taught about it at schools. The other is through the creation of debt, the deliberate creation of debt by governments. Because remember, the money just gets loaned into existence. It's not really anywhere. It's got to be paid back. And here you can see how the debt has grown in the UK since 1997. Now, the red bars represent when Labour Party have been in power, and the blue bars represent when the Tories have been in power. And the Tories traditionally have this reputation for being cautious and careful with money and not increasing the government debt. But you can see that hasn't happened under them. And when the coronavirus lockdown hit, it became a really great excuse for the governments to print even more money than they've ever done. Now, this is the US debt clock, and it shows the amount of national debt by the major economies. You got the USA with over $30.6 trillion in debt, and the external debt to GDP ratio is 104.01%. You got the UK with 289.06% external debt to GDP ratio, France 221, Belgium 249.42, Germany a relatively healthy 138.45%. But there isn't the money being generated by these economies to pay back the debt. It's like, you're working, you keep taking out loans on your credit card, but you're not bringing in enough money to pay back the debt. So you just end up deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. And at some point, you're going to have to default. Or the creditor is going to say to you, no more, you can't borrow anymore, I'm not lending you anymore. And then the whole thing collapses. And that happens on a macro scale for a whole bunch of reasons, one of which is, as a cobbler, my 10 hours of time and effort crafting these really, really fine shoes now only gets me 100 grams of beef. Not only that, the supplies cost more, because as more money floods the system, more fiat floods the system, it devalues the value of fiat, so everybody's charging more because it's worth less, because it's less scarce. So what happens? Well, you have monetary collapse, you have societal collapse, you have economic collapse, like what's happening in Sri Lanka, like what's happening in Bangladesh, like what's happening in Argentina and the Lebanon, like what's happening in Kenya, like what we're on track for in Pakistan, like what we're on track for in the Netherlands, in Germany, the European Union, the UK. And when there's a monetary collapse and people aren't able to earn enough to feed themselves and their family or to keep themselves warm, then you have societal breakdown and you have governments being upended. Now, the people in power never want to lose power. You know, if I was ruler of the world or prime minister of the United Kingdom, I don't want to lose power. I want to hold on to it. Now, it's not the politicians that are the ones that pull the strings. No, you got to follow the money. The ones that pull the strings are the ones who are closest to the spigot, and that's due to a particular phenomenon known as the Cantillian Effect. Now, I don't know why this quote that I picked out says the so-called Cantillian Effect. I'm going to ignore that bit. The Cantillian Effect describes the uneven expansion of the amount of money. The ones who profit from it are the ones who are close to the money. Imagine, if you will, a situation where you own all the gold mines in the world, or you own all the Bitcoin mines in the world, or you own all the silver mines in the world, or it could be me. How about it's me, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the advantage that I have of being close to the spigot, the reward that I'm close to, my friends, my family, my political allies, or I'm going to use that to buy friends and favors within larger society. So the Cantillian Effect gives an advantage to those that are closest to the sources of money. In a fractional reserve banking system, who are the ones that are closest to the source of money? Are the bankers. Over 90% of the pounds that are in circulation currently in the UK have been created by banks, just as part of their normal business processes. It's probably the same in Europe, United States, wherever there's a fiat system. It's the banks that create the money. It's the banks that benefit the most from the Cantillian Effect because they're able to provide funding to buy friends and favors. So being close to the money spigot allows the bankers to create money in order to buy favors, in order to capture people. And the people they're going to capture are the ones whose only hope at success and power are the ones who have no ideas for themselves. No integrity, no skill, no talent. Only hope of power is to allow themselves to be bought and captured. Those that have merit, that have a vision, won't be bought and captured. They don't need to be bought and captured because they will rise on their own. Now, it isn't always because of money that people are bought. Put simply, somebody comes along Joe Biden and says, hey, listen, we will make you president of the United States, but you will do our bidding. We will make you leader of the opposition, but you will do our bidding. And we will get the mainstream media to rubbish and smear your opponent in order to support you. But once you're in power, you will do as we tell you to. And that means offering no real opposition to whoever leads the Conservative Party. That means pretty much following the same playbook as every other puppet that we've installed using the incredible resources that we have thanks to the fractional reserve banking system that allows us to magic money out of thin air and buy and own and capture stupid, visionless, morally corrupt fools like this who cannot think for themselves, who offer nothing but brainless platitudes and going to make no difference to the quality of people's lives or how society is run. And this is why Germany, the European Union, the United Kingdom run themselves into the ground. Just look at how Joe Biden has destroyed what he inherited from Donald Trump. And the solution to all this? Sound money. Bitcoin, gold, silver, and true accountability, and an end to the theft of people's time and labor. Alright, this is Crypto Rich signing out. I'm in sunny Cornwall. Cornwall, by the way, is just my favorite part of Britain. Let me know what you think about my argument. Anything you want to add, anything you disagree with, put them in the comments below. Please do subscribe bit.ly Crypto Rich Odyssey. Follow me on Twitter and join my official Telegram announcements channel. This is Crypto Rich signing out. All the best. Bye-bye. I want people to know about this website, phmpt.org. phmpt.org. It started in end of January. It's public health medical transparency. It's a charity. They sued the FDA and Pfizer to get the Pfizer trial data. And the FDA said, yes, we'll release it after 75 years. And the judge said, no, 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 no. You start releasing it now. And it's getting no publicity on the mainstream media. So please go check that out. Let people know about this website so they can discover what is in those injections, because it's not good. It's not good. It's not good. And people need to know, don't take, if you've had it, don't have any more. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.